Welcome back to Big Easy Garage. Behind me is my 1984 Chevrolet K10 that we've been building on for, I don't know, I guess the project's been about 2 years now. It's a hobby truck of mine that I like to do, but I don't work on it all the time. So we've had this thing tore down quite a bit. And, maybe you want to go back and watch some previous videos, see what we did. But let's walk around this thing real quick, and I'll show you kind of what we've already done so far, what we're going to do today. I think we're going to try to turn over that 4.8 and try to build some oil pressure. Let me show you what we got. So this is the truck here. Obviously, you can see the bed back there. Took it off so we could put in coilovers on the rear. We also wanted to clean up the frame some. Took out the tank, redid it, made sure it was completely ready to go. Put in a new sending unit. I've got the filler net cleaned up, new tube on that. We can see we got the zip tie just to kind of hold it up at the moment. But this is the truck cab. Let me see if I can scoot back a little bit. Well, there's the cab on it. It's nice and patinaed. I put the front clip on there. That's why it's sagging. I still haven't adjusted and tightened everything up. This is the old grill that was in it. The new grill that's going in, it's over there. Here is our 4.8 liter. We had this completely tore down, sent to the machine shop. It's got a Holly 600 on it, Edelbrock dual plane intake. It's been bored 20 over. It's got a new cam, that sort of thing. So it's decent. It ain't, it's not a super hot rod, but it should give us a good amount of power, low end torque. Running everything off a MSD box. We got a distribution block there and a bunch of relays, so we'll try to clean it up. As you can tell, this truck is not complete yet. I mean, it still needs a windshield, a hood. Obviously, it needs all the accoutrements like your windshield washer jugs and your overflow tanks and all that stuff. We've still got to get the front of the truck bolted back together and get it set up square so it's not going to rub on the doors or sag. But we did put, I don't know if you can see that, coilovers in the front there. Got a new transmission line kit that we're trying to install right now. So that's kind of where we're at. Does have some damage on it. We've got quite a bit of dents there, a lot of just rust. Needs a lot of work and love. Okay, that doesn't want to open. Let's go over to the driver's side. I will show you guys what it looks like. We've done a decent amount of work in here. If you guys haven't seen the past videos, go check a look at it. Right now, I've got my dash apart, and I've got tons of wiring hanging down. We've got to clean that up today. That's the gauges that are going in it and that bezel there. And so we're going to plug all that up to make sure that we've got oil pressure. But we got to get a seat in here. We've got carpet that we put in on the floor. We've got carpet that we put in on the back. I don't know if you can see that all the way down, but it's coming together. That is kind of where we're at. We did get some door panels from a fella and realized that they're junk. So we're going to replace on those. We put new switches in, wired all that up on both sides. We put new door lock mechanisms, which I'm assuming that one's locked over there because it's not working. So get the keys out and fix that. But all in all, this thing's pretty clean for it to be an 84 and the outside to be as rusty and kind of, you call it patina if you want. It's just old paint, but cleaned up the frame real good. There's no big rust pockets there. Just put in a new U-joint on the drive shaft. So we're going to climb in real quick underneath the truck and finish up buttoning up that one transmission cooler line. And I think we're going to try to work on these gauges, get those knocked out, make sure that we can read the oil pressure, and then we're going to turn on this thing and see if we can't build some oil pressure. Once we do that, we'll start buttoning up everything, cleaning up all the wires, cleaning up all the dash gauges and getting those set in. And then we will, here's another look at this front coilovers, pretty nice. But we're gonna get those all done up, and then we'll be able to crank on her probably in the next video or so. But this is just a pretty quick update. We put in a new course report on this thing. This thing's looking pretty good. All in all, everything's fitting really nice. We're using a lot of AMD metal parts, and so inner fender wells on both sides. Everything like that looks good. So, all right, let me get set up real quick. We're going to jump in on this transmission cooler line underneath on the transmission side of things, get these kind of rerouted so they look a little bit better and they're not in the way. And then we'll start to get inside on those gauges. Give me 1 second. All right, well, we've got the transmission line down there tightened up, and I went in and just kind of redid some wiring and tried to get the oil pressure gauge plugged in and working. So right now we're going to take our positive cable and go ahead and attach it and make sure nothing starts to spark or arc. We're going to go ahead and hook up the, got a cable here coming into our main feed, which our distribution block lit up. That's good. Let me pull that off, clean that up a little bit, run that under there. We're gonna put our main feed there. And then we've also got our alternator, which is right here. We're gonna go ahead and put on just because. And then our main battery power. So give me a moment, let me reroute these wires to where they're not just hanging out everywhere. And we're gonna make sure that nothing starts to catch fire. And if we're good there, then where did I put that? Well, there it is. Anyway, so if we're good there, then we'll go ahead and make sure that the dash is on once we put a fuse in our distribution block, and we'll turn it over and see if we get oil pressure. So let me bring you in here and show you this. So this is what I was talking about. So we've got power to our battery. Of course, we got to reroute some wires, but we got our distribution block is now lit up. So basically what that is it's a fusible power block. So we got power coming in, and then we got all the fusible links coming out into our MSD and our fan and our gauges. So let's go inside and see what the gauges look like. And this is our gauges. Obviously we don't have the fuse in the distribution block, but as of right now, nothing seems to be smoking. Nothing seems to be on fire. So that's good. Let's go in and put the fuses in, and then we'll turn on the key and see what happens. All right, well, we had some issues with the 12 volt, signal, like cranking signal or a keyed signal, keyed 12 volt source for our relays. But I just went ahead and hardwired them in. So we're going to try to turn this thing over and just see if we can get some oil pressure built up. We'll see what happens. Not looking so good at the moment. Oh, we're back at it this morning. Figured out that since we weren't getting the voltage that we needed to, kept having a voltage drop, that we just go ahead and put the battery charger on from the shop truck. That way we've got a good 13, 14 volts on cranking. Now we're gonna jump in this thing and see if we can't get some oil pressure. Here we go. Let's see if we can build some oil pressure on that top gauge and the green. Nothing. Okay. Well, let's see what we can do, and we'll get back with you in a minute. All right, let's watch the gauge. I think we got it figured out now. All right, so we got oil pressure. Not the exact results we were wanting. Obviously, we wanted to see more oil pressure, but that may come up later on. I don't know. Either way, we're still putting that almost 40 pounds. It's just a hair under. So 40 pounds oil pressure is about typical. Now this old truck over here has got 240,000 miles and crank up, but it's got 60 pounds oil pressure. So I don't know, but I know 40 pounds is good, and we're almost there. So we'll see what happens once we get it running, get some oil through it, oil change, all that stuff. But right now we at least got oil pressure. So we're going to move on to the next phase, and that's cranking her up. All right, well, first of all, Merry Christmas, everyone, because this is Christmas Day. And I came to the shop with my dad, and we were going to just kind of clean up some of the wires and the relays and whatnot. So I decided to take off some wires and redo some wires there for the MSD box, the gauges on the inside, and fuel pump, that sort of thing. And I said, well, you know what? Let's see if we can get this thing fired up. So we went over to the local Exxon and grabbed some bad gas and see if, all right, the gauges are here. We got some bad gas mixed with a little two-stroke oil in there. We're going to see if we can crank it up. Well, here we go. All right, that was not a bad first startup. She's a little high on idle. That's probably because it's new and it needs to be set. But let's try it one more time. Oh, you know what? Let me go and pump the carburetor. 1 second. Here, will you hold this so I don't spill this everywhere? Thank you. All right. I don't know if you guys can see that. I don't know. Let's see what happens. Let's see if I can do it in here. All right, well, maybe it needs some more gas. This is the fun part about it. I don't know if I got any in the bowl. I don't know if I have enough in the bowl, but let's just, there we go. All right, hold that, please. All right, here we go. See what we can do. There's too much gas, but that was a backfire. That was another backfire. All right, let me figure out what's going on. We'll get back with you. Well, good morning and welcome back. Super early, like sun's not even out early. Been a couple days since you last seen it, and I guess you guys saw that it cranked up and ran for just a few seconds and shut off. We did get it to run a little while after that. The next day, I think I came back, and we've been fighting timing issues with this MSD 6014 box. And one thing that we realized is we don't have the ECT hooked up, the engine coolant temp sensor hooked up, and that's throwing us, it's reading like negative 40 degrees, which was advancing the timing by 5 degrees, and it was giving us timing issues. But we went ahead and reset all that, zeroed it out, went on a new custom tune table and got it running, and was a high idle, but ran fine. Did it 2 or 3 times in a row. Everything was good. But since then, we've had more issues with it. I've called MSD. I've talked to Holly about the carburetor. Can't really figure it out. Wasn't throwing any type of crank sensors or cam sensors or anything like that. No faults. Just except for that ECT, which not a big deal. It won't keep it from running. It'll just, if it's advancing the timing, then it will be hard on start up, or, you may have some issues like we had. But once you zero it out, it'll still throw the fault, but it won't mess with it. However, late yesterday afternoon, I did get a crank sensor fault, a crankshaft positioning sensor fault. And when I talked to MSD, they said you've got to use either an AC Delco or a GM crank sensor on this box. I'm assuming it reads a certain parameters, and that's what we're going with. The one that's in it is new, and it's a Delphi unit, but it was not the GM unit. So picked one of these up yesterday evening, and luckily, my local Chevy dealer had one in stock, got a good discount on it. So we're gonna pop that in this morning. You guys saw where we did some wiring, eliminated some of that. We're going to go back and clean up a little bit more, add a bus bar so I can keep the radio that we don't have in there right now, but the radio, the gauges, and the MSD box all need a constant to keep the memory going in them. So we're going to wire up a bus bar so they'll have their constant. And then we're going to put the fuse block that we had on a toggle. That way we can cut power to the ignition, because right now I don't have a key 12 and I'm having to run out. When it's running, I turn the ignition off on the column. Obviously it's not doing anything, so I'm having to run out and disconnect the battery. And well, I'm getting tired of doing that. So I'm going to, this morning we're going to pop in this new crankshaft positioning sensor. I'm going to put the bus bar in for the memory power wires, the constant wires, and we're also going to drop in that toggle switch for that fuse block so I can have the ignition on toggle. I've got to button up an oil leak. There's a filter over here. I don't know if there may have been a gasket from when it got cleaned up and painted and I just didn't see it. Whatever the case is, I've got an oil leak on an oil filter over here. So I've got to spin that off, and I've got another one in stock. I think there's one back there that we'll pop on, clean it up, and just to double check that, make sure that we didn't blow a gasket out, or we didn't fold one up, or double gasket, or whatever. So we're gonna work on that. And then the carburetor's still out of adjustment, still kind of out of tune. On that, I need to figure that out. I'm not a carburetor guy. This is really maybe the second or third one that I've worked on. So we're going to work on getting that squared away. But if we can just get it running and constantly cranking and running, then I think we can get in there and work on the fast idle and the curb idle and get everything squared away on that. So wish us luck. And let's get to work. So here we go. All right, new game plan. I can't find the bus bar that I had. The shop is a wreck right now, and I really need to clean it up, but I'm trying to get the truck running so I can move it around and really do a thorough cleaning. So we're just going to jump in and put this main power wire on a toggle. I'll lose the memory, but it'll be all right. I do have another bus bar coming in from, I guess, Amazon. So it'll be here like Tuesday. So next weekend I'll drop it in. But in the meantime, let's just go ahead and work on what we can and just keep moving. All right, we got it wired in. This is the switch we're going to use. That's going to be kind of like our key 12. That's off, that'll be on. Now, we're going to work on this crank sensor, and then we'll connect everything to the battery and get everything ready to go. All right, I don't know if you guys can see, but this is obviously our starter. Our crank sensor, well, let me see. So it's back up in there behind the starter. So we're going to drop the starter, get the crank sensor out real quick, pop a new one in, put the starter back up, and we'll be in business. So let me get started on that. All right, the old sensor is out and the new sensor's in, starter's back in. We're going to connect the battery, see what we got. Remind you, the old sensor wasn't bad, but this is a Delphi unit, and apparently the MSD 6014 boxes only work with the AC Delco and the GM OE equipment brand crank sensors, cam sensors. I'm assuming it's parameter issues. That's kind of what the GM part salesman, we talked about it, and we think probably just different parameters per sensors. I don't really know, but either way, that one's still good. It'll go on another LS project with an LS computer and work just fine. But it's time to button up the battery and double check to make sure that our toggle switch is going to work. Make sure everything else is buttoned up, and we'll turn it over and see what happens. I don't know if I told you this or not, but the other day when we were having the starting issues in the truck and the gauges flickering in and out and that sort of thing, we had a 3-year-old battery, EverStart from Walmart. It was like 810 cranking amps. We tested it, and it loaded. With the load, it was mediocre. Kind of looked like a bad cell was going, but wasn't sure. Either way, went over to O'Reilly's, and they got us hooked up with a Superstart Extreme. Got a good price on it. A little over 1,000 cranking amps, and honestly, I don't have any issues with it cutting out on me. The gauges seem to stay on the whole time. There's no blackout or power surge or anything like that. So, all right, here we go. Let's see what happens. So, as you saw, we had power to the battery. Here's our toggle switch. Just want to, yep. Gauges are coming on. Yep, that's exactly what we want. Now we can try to crank it. Give it a little gas to see what happens. All right. Well, let's see what the computer says. Well, I think that's pretty much going to do it for this video. There's still a lot more to iron out, a lot more to work. And I was hoping to get this thing running and being able to tune it up a little bit in this video, but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. This last go around trying to crank it up, it did fire off for just that quick second and then die again. And I figured out that the battery's dropping, more volts again. Now it's not cutting off, so it's still within the normal range and that sort of thing. But I could tell that it's just kind of weak turning it over. So I'm going to put the battery on boil and come back to you guys next video. Just knock this thing out. But we got that crank sensor straightened out. It wasn't throwing any codes. So I think the timing's going to be okay on that. I just got to make sure we get the fuel delivery right, the high idle right, and make sure we got a good fresh battery in there. The battery we got, like I said, still showing 12 volts, but when you put a load on it, it's dropping down to about 11, maybe 10.8, 10.9. So totally within normal range, but being that I'm having to crank on it and crank on it and crank on it and crank on it and crank on it, I really needed to spin a little faster, and I needed it to be a little bit more stable so that way I can, make sure I can get it tuned right and everything's working properly. I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for staying with me. Hopefully we'll have more videos coming and we'll work on a lot more projects. We've got our shop truck that we're going to start working on here in the spring, doing a bunch of work to it. Hopefully getting it knocked out. If we can get the K10 up and running, we've got wheels and tires for it. We're going to do some other, interior work, that sort of thing. So hopefully by summertime, we'll have the K10 running and it ready to go. And then we're going to work and have this shop truck running too. So, it's running now. It's my daily driver, but there's a lot of stuff that I want to do to it and get it back ripping. So anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. You guys hope you had a Merry Christmas, and, New Year's is just right around the corner. So good luck, and may 2026 be awesome. Y'all have a good one. Thanks.